One, we're back. Now it's time to take a trip to the Batman universe, if you will, even though we were just there with Bane. We have a couple of comics. One is ending a story arc, and the other is, what are we, third way there? Yeah. Great issues.
Yeah, lots of multiversal implications.
A lot of meta going on there. A lot of meta, not meta-human, but a lot of meta story going on.
Yeah.
It takes these are definitely a couple of reads just to make sure you're catching everything that's going on.
Dr. Hurt should really just call himself Dr. Meta.
Yeah.
That would make more sense.
Dr. Meta's going on.
Yeah.
Crazy. Nightwing number 20. Nightwing Must Die finale. We were just talking about Dr. Hurt. Dr. Hurt is putting Nightwing through, I guess, an hallucination of the nth degree.
Yeah, trying to turn Nightwing into the perfect weapon.
Yeah, forge into an ultimate weapon.
Yeah, because we saw last issue when he went to go, take down Dr. Hurt when he saw Damian laying on the altar, apparently dead. We saw what looked like his soul fell out of his body or something, and in this, he's just on the ground, on his knees, hallucinating about this alternate future where he's basically Deathwing.
Yes.
I mean, he's a version of Dick Grayson who's lost everything. He doesn't have Sean. He doesn't have Damian. He doesn't have anything to really keep him grounded, and he decides to go after Professor Pig because Pig's the one, at least in the hallucination, who took away all of his stuff. And that looks like it's kind of been implied as Nightwing has interacted with the Dollatron Deathwing, that Deathwing is meant to be sort of the future version of Nightwing. You know, what his mindset could be like, what his skill set could be like, if he didn't have to worry about Sean, if he didn't have to worry about these the soft spots, so to think. And in that hallucination or dream or whatever you want to call it, he ends up, as he's about to kill Professor Pig, he gets attacked by another Nightwing who steps in to stop him from killing Pig. And I do have to laugh. I did have to laugh at all the, Pig going, "Wee, don't kill me! Wee, don't kill." It's a very dark tale, but I'm just laughing out loud when he does that. And of course, this is almost shades of the trial in the cave at Dagobah, because he ends up fighting this other Nightwing and knocks off his motorcycle helmet, and it's future Damian, who's inserted himself into his hallucination to remind him of who he is, and that he's Grayson, which is how Damian always refers to him. He's never Dick, he's Grayson.
Or Richard.
Yeah, Richard. Yeah, it seems like he's Richard when he's not happy. He's Grayson when he's trying to bring him up. And that Damian tells Nightwing to remember what you told me when you made me Robin. I mean, you told me that Batman bases everything on his anger. This is on his anger and his sorrow and his rage, and that's something that has to be inherited really to become Batman. But to be Robin, your job is to save people. Your job is to catch them and to bring them up. And it's not because you're not doing it because of anger or rage. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do.
Yes.
And that, most importantly, that Robin isn't defined by tragedy.
Exactly.
Which is kind of ironic because Dick Grayson was sort of defined by tragedy as the original Robin, but, different than Batman, he's sort of moved past it. He's accepted that as part of his past, and he's working against that. And that's enough to break Nightwing out of
Yes, because he told him that you inherit the mantle of Batman, but the role of Robin is mine to choose to give.
Yep.
Which he was saying even more importantly of, yes, that's your birthright to be Batman, but for you to be Robin was my gift to you.
Yep. And that's enough to break Dr. Hurt's influence. And it's funny, too, because as he's doing this, Dr. Hurt's surprised when the Damian Nightwing shows up in the dream.
Yes.
And he says, "What? He's not supposed to be here." I mean, maybe thinking Nightwing wouldn't have that strong of a bond with Damien. But that's enough to break free of Dr. Hurt. Dr. Hurt gets, typical sock to the jaw.
Yep.
And right after that, he gets attacked by Deathwing,
who was talking with Sean the whole time.
Yeah. Yep.
And she was helping him cope with what he had experienced.
Because last issue we were a little tentative about what was Deathwing going to do with Sean, because the last time that had happened, Deathwing had kind of seemingly been brought back to his senses. He was talking to Robintron, Dinesh, and in the course of that conversation, he ended up killing Robintron and going off of Dr. Hurt. This time, it looks like that was actually legitimate. That Deathwing, in Deathwing's conversation with her, he says, I kind of want to be Deathwing because I don't want to be who I was before. And that's still, they never elaborate on who he is, but he doesn't, he has something that he wants to make up for. And Sean kind of gives him that push to, well, if you want to do something, do this, don't go that way, go that way. So Deathwing stabs Hurt with the, what did he call it? The Blade of Nothing, which is what Dr. Hurt called it. It's the same blade that Deathwing had used to give Nightwing his multiversal acid trip a few issues ago, which is what we officially named that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and when he stabs him with the Blade of Nothing, that causes some big, weird, multiversal earthquake thing or something that looks like Dr. Hurt's going to get sucked back into the multiverse or something. And he says, no, I don't want to go back. And then Hurt pulls out a knife and stabs Deathwing, and that gets the Blade of Nothing out of him.
But it just, that temple collapses, implodes. And you see, if you look at that panel, the aerial shot that they show, that's still shaped like a Nightwing bird.
Yeah.
But they did rescue Damien, and Damien is, Grayson, you're an idiot. He's still, no matter what, and they said, you survived. Yeah, I was able to move my spleen or my liver.
Yeah, it moves his liver out of the way.
Okay. Yeah. Even at death's edge, Damien is still defiant, and he talks about, because the Titans owe me, so they owe me an apology, but I'll just settle for a ride back and everything.
Yeah, and medical attention.
Yes.
And which he says at the very end, like, I might need some medical attention.
Dr. Hurt said something profound when he was trying to shape Nightwing to being that forging of the perfect weapon. He said, I've seen what's coming. I've been buried, I've been gassed, I've been buried alive by the Joker, I've this. I'm evil incarnate. And I'm scared. Yeah. And he made a point to say, don't you understand? The reason I'm doing this is I'm evil incarnate. I've seen this, I've been through this. I'm scared for what's coming.
Yep, there's something worse out there than Dr. Hurt. And in the very beginning of this issue, too, Hurt says that Nightwing needs to become a finely tempered weapon for the dawn ahead. It sounds like Hurt knows that something is coming, and he wants to use Nightwing as a weapon to, fight against that. And I mean, we know Hurt has a connection to the multiverse. Right. I mean, when he got stabbed with the what was that? The Blade of Nothing. Right. That seemingly sucks him back in almost. But it makes you wonder: has he met Dr. Manhattan or whoever's behind DC
or whoever
Rebirth?
He's saying, whoever this ultimate villain could be? If it is Dr. Manhattan or not. But what would scare that character so much that he had to go to this extreme? Yeah,
and Dr. Hurt, of all people, which is kind of bigwig villain in at least the Batman portion of the mythos of the DC universe. That's pretty nuts. I mean, you mentioned it a while back when we first started the story arc and Dr. Hurt showed up, is that Dr. Hurt is essentially kind of analogous to the devil in a lot of this, and this is someone who the devil himself is afraid of. So that's pretty wild.
Yeah, that is. Where's the relationship stand with Sean and Dick?
Well, when they get back, Sean finds out after all she's not pregnant. Yeah, so maybe she hadn't even taken the test when they found the test before. Who knows? But that's, they don't have a baby coming. Sean's obviously very distressed about what happened with Professor Pig and the Dolatrons, and she just tells Dick, I need to do some painting. And kind of ask for him to,
Yes.
give her some time. And Nightwing and Damian have their, kind of last heart-to-heart.
Yep.
For,
Which was really good.
Yeah, and they're, sitting on the ledge, and Nightwing tells him, when Bruce came back, after we'd had our little bout as Batman Robin, I considered taking you on as my sidekick, instead of leaving you with Bruce as Robin. But at the same time, he also felt I might not be as good of a dad as Bruce would. I mean, he was afraid of what it would be like for Damian to stay with Bruce. Worst case scenario, Damian might stay Damian.
Yeah, exactly.
Which he is.
Yep.
But he also felt, I might not be the good enough father that Bruce is, because he has experience. I mean, he raised Dick, he did Jason and Tim, and the entire all-male Brady Bunch that is Batman and the Robin.
Yep. They had the heart-to-heart, and there is some admiration that Damian will always have towards Dick. And then all of a sudden they were, another crime, they hear the sirens, and what did Damian say? The future Batman and the original Robin, the ultimate team.
Yeah.
And we are the perfect team or something.
Yeah, we're the greatest.
Yeah, we're the greatest. And it really, I've always loved that pairing.
Yeah, it's cool because it's almost not, I think Nightwing's kind of taking on that sort of mentorship for Damian, and Damian, more than ever, thinks he's just the equal to him.
Exactly.
I mean, they're equals, no doubt about it. And Nightwing, they have that great sort of weird brotherly bond where they're so separate, but they work together so well.
Yes, definitely good. We're going to see what happens. Nightwing, I don't know where Nightwing goes, what next story arc. But this was a good story arc. It was on the weird, on the meta side, but it was good.
Yeah, but I'm definitely going to miss Damian. Damian, just like Jessica Cruz, makes me happy.
Yeah.
Just reading that.
Damian in the Nightwing story arcs is always great to read.
Yeah.
With Grace and everything. Hopefully we get to see it more. But I don't know, as Damian goes to the Teen Titans, I think he starts to branch off the Teen Titans. We'll see what happens.
Wondering how long it'll be before he gets his own series.
I think the Teen Titans, we got Teen Titans and Super Sons.
Yeah, technically those, but is he ever going to get a Robin series? Because some of the previous Robins have had their own. Like Tim Drake had his own series.
I don't know. I think that might spread him too thin as a character. For right now.
We don't need him to be like Wolverine or so.
No. Maybe in
or
the
Batman,
future. Or Harley Quinn, or where the character was very good and all of a sudden they're all branched out and just way too thin.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens, future issues of Nightwing, and see where the character Damian Wayne goes, and what implications Dr. Hurt's revelation of he is scared has for the DC Universe Rebirth meta storyline. Batman number 22, The Button, Part 3. This was a great issue. This was a very packed full of emotion, packed full of whoa. It was a great issue.
Yeah. This was a lot of stuff happening, and I wasn't expecting it to unfold like this.
No.
This is not especially the end. But in the beginning, we have Flashpoint Batman in the Flashpoint Batcave. I'm going to get tired of saying Flashpoint at some point for all that.
Right.
But this is right before Flash and Batman arrived last issue. He's there. He has the Atlanteans and the Amazons, who in the Flashpoint universe are evil, they're both villainous, have decided, okay, we have a joint villain. It's Batman. We need to go take him out. So they are converging on the Batcave.
Yes.
He's set up what looks like all sorts of traps and stuff, and maybe
explosives.
Even a bomb.
No, there is a bomb. There is a bomb because he's holding the trigger.
Yeah,
he's ready to take his life to
he's ready to end that threat. And then in come Batman and Flash. And they do their little figuring out where are we thing, and Bruce and Batman sees, the picture of his family, and he sees the gun in the case, and he knows, that's the gun I never found. And Flashpoint Batman says, well, this is for you. This is everything I did here as Batman is for you. And, it's that cool interaction that we didn't really get to see straight on. We saw it through the letter, because we know Flashpoint Batman wrote that letter to his son that Flash delivered when he came back in the New 52. And in this, Bruce tells him, okay, that letter, that was the greatest thing I ever received, because I got a message from my dead parents.
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. And he also says that if I could tell you anything, it would be you're a grandfather. Because he has Damian in the normal universe, and their conversation gets broken up by the fact that they're trying to be murdered by Amazons and Atlanteans.
The one thing, there was a lot to talk about, and I don't even think we're going to be able to discuss everything. There's so much. The one thing that I remember is we got to remember that Flashpoint was not a parallel universe like a Earth 1, 2, 3, Earth 2052. This was an alternate timeline that was created by Flash going back in time to try to save his mother, and what he did was the ramifications of that created ripples throughout the DC universe that affected those closest to him, Batman being one. So instead of Bruce Wayne living and becoming Batman, Bruce was killed, and Thomas Wayne and even Martha Wayne became characters in that Flashpoint universe.
And that's something even the Flash says, that it's, this is an alternate timeline, this is an alternate history.
That should not be there.
And even Thomas Wayne seems to know that. He calls it, it's a world on life support. That it shouldn't be there, but it's still running its course.
Because when Flash went back through time, and he was... I almost want to have like a Back to the Future board with Dr. Brown and Marty to draw a line, so when Flash went back in time, instead of having this line, Dr. Manhattan supposedly took out 10 years and skidded down to the new 52 universe that's now starting to come back up and being corrected. However, the Flashpoint that should have been erased somehow was pulled over here and is still being kept alive by some force.
Sort of like just taking the chunk out and leaving it somewhere else.
Just floating around like if you're a computer programmer, there's always bits of code that you kind of just leave in a program because it's easier to leave it and not have anything point to it than it is to take it completely out. And that's a Flashpoint, is that chunk of code that is still there, that shouldn't be there, but nothing else points to it. But they feel, especially Flash, that someone is playing a cruel joke, a sick joke, bringing us back there. There was a reason they were brought back there. And that was to show Batman and Flash, I don't know, that the powers that they're trying to look for can manipulate reality, can manipulate time.
It's hard to tell, because when the Flash has to rebuild the cosmic treadmill, because apparently all the pieces of the cosmic treadmill are right in the back. Which made me laugh a little bit. Like, he's looking for the rotor and stuff, and it's like, really, it's all seriously in there? Like, wow, that's fortunate. But
he's rebuilding that. He's rebuilding that.
So they can get back. And when he gets done, Batman says to his dad, listen, you need to come with us. I mean, we can save you from this reality. We can bring you into ours. And Thomas kind of plays coy for a little bit, and then he ends up pushing Batman onto the cosmic treadmill with the Flash. And they have to take off, because that universe is starting to just collapse. I mean, it's just turning into little white bits.
It's starting to be erased.
And what's interesting too is their last conversation is Thomas says to Bruce, do you remember what I told you when I pulled you up out of the well for the first time? And Bruce says, yeah, you were whispering so you wouldn't scare the bats. But you told me that Wayne's, people may fall down, but Wayne's never stay down. They rise back up. And that's very telling, because that's very related to hope. And that's something we've seen be targeted in the DC universe before. I mean, we've seen that with Superman. We saw that with the Blue Lanterns, which are obviously the lanterns of hope. They've been blocked from their plans. So it's interesting that they would end up being brought to that universe. And Batman's dad talks about hope to him, which you would expect that, that kind of gives him hope.
Yep.
Maybe that was to, bring them there, watch his dad get erased, take away the hope from him. I don't know what all the machinations of this is, but
it gave Thomas Wayne Batman, Flashpoint Batman, hope too, and still as the universe getting erased, he was ready to blow himself up with a cave, but now he starts fighting. He's like, we rise.
Yeah.
And he was going to try to combat whatever's going on. It proved futile, what it looks like, but...
Yeah, well, I don't know.
We don't know.
It looked like
Nothing's
kind of
for
an
sure.
ambiguous fate when you're just running off into whiteness with, a batarang in each hand.
But he did tell Bruce not to be Batman. If you have a life, you've got a son, enjoy that, enjoy this, da-da-da.
Yeah.
And Batman, like, oh, whoa, there's a lot to think about. They don't really get time to think about it because now they're back in the timeline or back in whatever. And who do they see running past them?
Yeah, it's Professor Zoom.
Yes.
And he's saying, hey, gangway, I'm coming through.
You guys get in front of me.
Yeah.
And that's where Barry says time must have folded back on itself again.
Yep.
So we're in a point before Zoom is dead.
Yep. So this is Zoom. Well, he still has the button running off to go confront, whoever has the button. And Flash tries to say, no, listen, you keep going. You're going to get killed. Thawne says, no, screw you. I know what the power of this button is. I know who it belongs to. I'm going to mess with them. They're going to hear from me.
Right.
I don't think that's going to work out so well for him
No,
the second
we
time. But going into this story arc, watching Batman and Flash try to solve the murder of Professor Zoom, I'm thinking, how are they ever going to solve that? Like, what's the step where they're ever going to get to that conclusion if it's so crazy? And then here's, it's so insane to see the victim go, flying past. They get a chance to see the crime when it happens.
I'm doing the whiteboard.
Yeah.
In a future episode, we're going to get a whiteboard, and I'm just going to draw lines. I think we're going to get that as soon as we get some poster easels. Yeah.
Even Etch-a-Sketch would work, just do, up,
I'm not that
down,
very good
up.
with that.
Well, yeah, but you just need to go, that way, up, that way, up, that way, up, that way.
Turn the knobs.
There's the timeline.
Yes.
Yeah, it might end up doing a big circle, but that's essentially what happened here. So that's pretty wild. That means they might even get to see the crime happen.
Yes.
They might get to see him get killed or maybe not get killed. I don't know how that's going to end, but that ending was like, whoa. This just got real.
Every time, I feel like we should be having, some people get upset because you can't binge watch all your shows. They get upset. Now in this day and age, we got DVRs, we've got Netflix, we've got Hulu, we've got special shows, original content that you can binge watch all the series. And I feel sometimes that I just want to binge read all these titles that come out. Don't keep me hanging week to week. Give me 1 through 4 all at once so I can read it and be happy, because anytime we get these issues, first thing I'm looking for is certain titles in a series of, oh, okay, this is the button number 3. Oh, wait, we got to wait 2 more weeks for number 4. And then we got to wait for, I wish we could just binge read certain issues, certain story arcs, and this is definitely one of them.
Yeah. But then again, I think one of the things I like about reading comics kind of separate like that is, in that interval between them, you get to process the rest of that.
Yes, true.
And you might, that might be a couple more read-throughs. That might just be, I might think about when I'm doing the dishes one day, like, hey, I didn't notice that point before. I might, compare that to something else. Or, that makes the next one even more worthwhile.
Or even the story beats of other titles start to say, all right, this is happening. I'm seeing this trail of this title relates to this moment, relates to this. The continuity is strong within the DC universe.
Yeah. The continuity is strong with this one. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We just have one more issue, the button number 4, and then we'll kind of have this first year of rebirth onto the second year.
Yep, maybe we'll have some answers as to what's going on too, because we still have a lot of speculation as to what's going on, but we don't have any identities or anything. I doubt we're gonna get that from that, but that'll be interesting to see how the Flash and Batman get out of that.
Yes.
Because if that's, I mean, if they're heading to, watch Dr. Manhattan kill Reverse Flash, that'll be interesting to see how they get out of that one.
Definitely. Well, that is this episode, this discussion of Comic Book Cove. There's some really, really big moments that we've touched upon, and they're only going to get bigger.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of multiversal implications, and a few plots that are just leaving us with a lot of questions. Lots of questions everywhere.
Exactly.
Nightwing kind of resolved a lot of those, but there are still some questions lingering there too. And with Superman, what is going on?
Exactly.
No answers yet. Only more questions.
If you have any thoughts or any comments on any titles we discussed, or want to talk about certain comics and future issues, drop us a line at our Facebook and YouTube site, Delve Into the Void. So for this episode of Comic Book Cove, I'm Tom Morris.
And I'm Josh Holderbaum.
And Lady Margot Elise says, well, she doesn't really say much, but we will see you next episode of Comic Book Cove.
Access Vision. Your voice, your community.